Hey guys, it's Rob here and welcome back to Hammered Halo DIY. Today I'll show you how we made this rustic yet modern dog bed for under 50 bucks. If you're one of the thousands of new dog owners across the country and you want to give your new pup something special, you might want to give this DIY project a go. The materials for this build are inexpensive and the build time is super fast. With some basic tools and a weekend, you can have your new addition resting in comfort. All you're going to need for this build is two 1x6 by 5/4 inch deck boards, two 8-foot 1x4s, one 3-foot length of 1/2 inch rebar, number 8 1 3/4 wood screws, and of course some wood glue. Measure and mark the 3-foot length of rebar into 4-inch pieces. If you have a metal chop saw available, cutting these will be a breeze. If you don't, you can either use a hacksaw with a metal cutting blade or a grinder with a metal cutoff wheel. Cut the rebar with whatever method you choose and you should be left with 8 4-inch pieces. These cutoffs will require a couple coats of paint, and it's best to get started with this step so they have time to dry before we need to implement them into the project. I found drilling some 1/2 inch holes into either a block of scrap wood or a chunk of rigid foam was the best way to secure them for painting. I'm using a fast dry black enamel spray paint for this step. There's a wide range of pet cushion sizes available, so I've created a cut list on this build to keep it versatile with a range of cushion sizes for small to medium sized dogs. The overall dimensions of this bed will be 30 inches long by 19 inches wide, which should accommodate several different bed sizes. Now over to the chop saw and the table saw to get through our cut list. The bottom rail has a cutout to the center where the entrance to the bed will be. Measure and mark the center on the lower rail, then measure up 1 3/4 on the right side and mark a line to that center mark. There's only one angle detail cut on this whole piece, and that's on the front, lower, and upper rails. The overall length of each piece of rebar is 4 inches. The rebar will be driven into both bottom and top rails to a depth of 1 inch, leaving an exposed 2-inch length of rebar. To easily determine the angle on both pieces, I first separated them by that 2 inches, found the middle of the lower rail, then using a speed square, marked the angle on both the top and bottom rails. And now I'll just use a jigsaw to finish off these two angled cuts. The assembly at this point is actually really basic. All the joints will be butt jointed together and fastened with glue and screws. Don't need mitered edges on this build as it is 1, just a dog bed, 2, we're going for kind of a rustic feel anyhow, and 3, we'll be finishing it with a whitewash finish which will hide any imperfections as a result of using butt joints. We are drilling close to the edges, so it is best to take a few extra minutes at this point to pre-drill and countersink all your fastening locations. I'll be using a number 8 countersink bit for all the holes. First step in the assembly is to glue and screw the two boxes together independent of each other. Using a speed square will help you keep the boxes square as you fasten them together. Now I'll fasten the base support cleats to the bottom edge of the larger base box. These cleats are what will hold the base slats in place and ultimately keep your dog cooler by creating an airspace between the bed and the floor. Now just dry fit all your pre-cut slats onto the cleats, space them evenly, then screw them in place. You don't want to be using any glue in this step, just in case you need to replace any of the boards in the future. Next, we want to mark and pre-drill out our rebar locations. I settle on the spacing at 3 inches in from each corner, then centering 1 extra piece on the back side for a total of 9 pieces. When you're marking the rebar locations, it's best to stack the 2 box frames together and mark them both at the same time. Now I'll just pre-drill 3/8 inch holes into both upper and lower frames. To mark the depth of each hole, measure 1 inch down on your drill bit and wrap some masking tape around the bit. Going in straight is really important with this step. They do make bit guides to help with this. Unfortunately, I don't have one. If I can find a good one, I'll link it in the description below. If you're planning to keep your piece natural looking, you can go ahead and skip this part and jump right into hammering in the rebar. However, we've decided to give ours a little bit more of a modern finish by applying a gray colored paint. And this is just some old paint I had laying around, so don't ask me in the comments what color it is because I won't be able to tell you. Along with the gray color, I'll also be adding a touch of white on top to give it a bit of a whitewashed look. Now, if there is a better way to achieve this look, please speak up in the comments. I definitely am interested in knowing better options. For the whitewash look, I'm lightly brushing over the base coat with a pure white paint, and when it's dry, I'll give it a light sand with probably 150 grit sandpaper. Once you have all the holes drilled for the rebar, go ahead and hammer them into the bottom base first. Rebar has ribs that grab and hold super tight, so careful when you're banging them into place because if they go in crooked, you're not likely getting a do-over. What have I done? After you have all the rebar pieces pounded into the base section, line up the top rail section holes to the rebar and tap it down using a scrap piece of wood. You should be able to hear the difference in the tapping as you bottom out on the rebar. I opted to make my own feet for this project, however you could buy some black 4-inch hairpin legs which would go really well with this look. I also sprayed them a gloss black to tie in the black rebar, and of course it wouldn't be complete without a name tag or a bone in our case. All that's left to do now is pick out a nice cushion, obviously better than the one I have, and that's pretty much it. A simple weekend project that's under 50 bucks, fairly simple to do, and your dog will love it. If you like DIY projects like this one, we got a whole lot more coming down the pipe in the coming weeks, so make sure you smash that subscribe button, like, and comment. I do try to respond to everyone. Thanks again for watching, and yeah, hopefully we see you all on the next build. Cheers.